But let's talk about the match we just saw at WWE Hell in a Cell. We're watching it live on justin.tv, and indeed these are our thoughts for YouTube. The submissions count anywhere match has just concluded. Daniel Bryan has been victorious, indeed making The Miz submit on the Titantron ramp after interference from Alex Riley, which took John Morrison out of the game. And indeed, certainly a solid match. Started off quite slowly, a lot of attempted submission moves, and indeed it was taken to the crowd quite quickly. Great opening match though, and always good to see The Miz and Morrison in there, getting the crowd into it at a very early stage.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with Morrison after this one. No sign of any healing up here tonight at Hell in a Cell. But Miz has his place. He's got his money in the bank. He's still safe. And Daniel Bryan is still solid as the US champ. Good match all around, I think. A lot of good mat wrestling from Morrison and Daniel Bryan. And a lot of innovative moves from both two. Some very rare kind of submission holds from arm locks to leg locks. And I think both of them looking very impressive, and Miz, at least he's got on the mic. He didn't deliver too much with that one, but good ending. Bryan Danielson retains the US title.
Indeed, it was mat wrestling class of excellence, and as you say, all those rare holds that were applied by Daniel Bryan just makes me realise that this is the submission guy in WWE, and I think this stipulation built around Daniel Bryan, very positive sign for him, and indeed it's been all go, all positivity for him. We've also got Mike on Skype. He's been watching the pay-per-view here with us. Mike, your thoughts on that match you've just seen right there?
For the first match of Hell in a Cell, it was pretty much bought. It was excellent. It started off a bit slow, quickly, and then after that, it just came into a wrestling mat kind of happening, and then Morrison was coming out with the crazy, unique submissions, and then went into the crowd, like Steve said, and all hell broke loose. It's Hell in a Cell. All hell broke loose. Morrison went on top of the cage on the stage by the Titantron. Even though that happened, it didn't even matter. Daniel Bryan comes out with his United States Championship again.
Absolutely, and you mentioned that incredible crossbody block from John Morrison off the stage. Indeed, again, some of the kind of edgier stuff that I was hoping for. Now, maybe not the biggest of leaps, but certainly a step in the right direction towards getting some more of that kind of Jeff Hardy high-flying stuff again.
Yeah.
Randy Orton has just retained the WWE Championship. Quite long match, I think. Interesting spots throughout. A lot of use of the steps, and of course the steel cage fencing used as a cheese grater for Orton's face. Both guys got very, sweaty very early on, and indeed they obviously were doing quite a lot. More than it seemed. I mean, it did seem quite low on spots. A lot of high impact stuff though.
Yeah, slow start to this one, but picked up towards the end. A lot of interaction with the steps here and there. A couple of botches here and there with certain things on the outside and on the inside. But good display out of Sheamus. I think he was the aggressor, but the Viper strikes one more time and retains the WWE title.
Watching Hell in a Cell live on Justin, and also recording our thoughts for YouTube. This is what we felt about these matches as they played out here in front of us. We're now just seeing Orton as he walks out with the belt. I felt like Sheamus again put on a fantastic showing. To be in with someone like Orton is always going to be tough. You've got to work with the best when you're with someone like Orton or Jericho. And indeed, I think he sold for him all over. He definitely sold every punch, and anything that Orton did, Sheamus, without a doubt, put him over.
This is an interesting one. Orton is climbing the cell, and he's got his belt on backwards, And yep, that's one way to get over, really, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, this is what we were calling for. Someone to get up on top of the cell. And it's happened, luckily, with Orton standing there now. So overall, I think I did enjoy this. Exactly what I expected. Bit of a powerhouse struggle. And yeah, I think they kept it interesting. Of course, Sheamus tried everything he could, bringing the steps into play, the chair. And indeed, nothing could quite defeat Orton. All attempted pins failed, and eventually it turned for the better for Randy Orton. Indeed, also interesting placement of this as the second match on the card, but I suppose I think the unanimous feeling that perhaps to space out those Hell in a Cell matches probably the best thing. But Mike, how did you feel about this? Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it as soon as it started picking up, and that's key because it was really slow in the beginning. Even though they were working, there wasn't even a pinfall, so maybe just or not a pin attempt until like halfway into the match. Nothing really was going on too quickly, and a lot of work coming out of both Sheamus and Randy Orton. I felt steel steps in play, steel chair in play, a lot of the cage used, the cell used, and a lot of good counters. Once it started picking up right at the end, basically.
Edge has come out victorious this match as a result of a Raw general manager email to Michael Cole. Cole, of course, back with the upgraded computer after Edge destroyed it last week. Good way of continuing this Edge storyline, and of course it was a very funny segment last week with that computer v Edge segment.
Yep. Bringing it on to pay-per-view, good move, I think. With that one, this all kicked off with Alberto Del Rio, right? So yeah, quite a long segment led into a match there with Swagger and the Rated R Superstar Edge. Nothing much really to report with that one. Swagger got a little bit bust up, possibly a tooth or something inside his mouth, but bleeding from the mouth for probably the last quarter of the match, maybe a little bit longer, but in the end it was Edge with the pinfall. Why? Who knows? But at least we're on to what we think will highlight the show, and that is Cena versus the Nexus.
Indeed, and just throughout that Swagger match, I kept referring to him as Kurt Angle. No real surprises there. Of course, everybody has seen him as an Angle counterpart and the younger version of him, if you like. It was a good way of getting Alberto, Edge and Swagger on the card and making sure that they get a pay-per-view appearance. I'm happier with the inclusion of Alberto Del Rio, actually. He got his promo, and indeed a great way to build him and further his character. Of course, Mike is joining us on Skype. What did you think of that match?
Yeah, we started out with Alberto coming out, cutting a promo. We got his announcer there, coming out with yet another high price card, and cutting a promo. Edge coming out, interrupting him. Then Jack Swagger coming out, interrupting them, and then Jam comes on. They have a match, but also now you have tomorrow for Raw. Edge must make a live apology to the Raw GM, which whatever, I guess. The match itself, we all weren't expecting. It came out of the blue and was just very, 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 very small. And then basically, it happened and then pinfall. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, very quick pinfall. The pinfall came out of nowhere. He pinned Cena after interference from what looked like Husky Harris and somebody else who was quite difficult to see who they were. But I'm presuming at this point in time, as we watch this pay-per-view live, that NXT Season 2 have found their way into this Nexus storyline. So it looks like perhaps tomorrow for Raw, we're looking at John Cena joining Nexus. And overall this match had a lot of different spots, but of course the high spot being Big Show coming out to dispatch NXT Season 1 after he was the worst for wear. Then the entire Raw roster made their way out.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. His time is up. Their time is now. John Cena, C Nation, it's all over, folks. The shock. People are distraught in the arena. The C Nation is crumbling. You can take those t-shirts and kiss them goodbye, because from tomorrow night, or from now, John Cena officially a member of the Nexus.
I thought earlier that they could very well do this if they kept Cena in the Shawn Michaels to JBL role, where in fact Michaels didn't turn heel, but he was with a heel, and he almost somehow, well, always remained babyface. And I think they could do that with Cena. They could put him there and not necessarily make him evil, if you like, but perhaps Nexus would have him doing all sorts of different things. And I think it's a good way of continuing this. If they're going to continue it, then do it as they have done in the past, and that's been with Cena involved, and since SummerSlam, quite a big main event push. Mike, your thoughts on that one?
This is one of the craziest matches and outcomes ever. The way it happened. You had Nexus members coming down, and then you had the whole entire Raw and SmackDown roster coming out, taking the 4 members out. Then you go on with the match, and then right at the end, what looked like to be maybe Lucky Cannon, and definitely Husky Harris as the second person to come in and interfere with the match. Unbelievable. This is just a complete shock. We hoped that Cena was going to turn heel, but the way this ended was just the complete shocker of everything right now.
This is it. It wasn't so much the match, it was the shocking finish that really was the high point in this match. So many interference angles, like I say, Big Show and the Raw roster, as well as Nexus themselves coming down. But that was all not really the story. It was the finish at the end, and the guys that looked like they jumped out of the crowd. And you know, they do always do that very well. They can bring guys out of the crowd, and yeah, you don't realise for just that short period of time that they are workers. But Husky did give it away a bit. It was quite simple to see who it was, but at this point I don't know who the other guy was.
Yeah, it definitely looked like McGillicuddy in the second replay, and it would make sense for those two guys from Season 2 who I haven't seen since